Okay, so this could be one video. I'm not sure. More than likely. So we'll just roll through the whole thing. Okay? Let's get into it. I'm not going to talk a whole lot because it's a longer video.
So when Ali radiallahu anhu goes to Al-Kufa, he wants to end this issue of Al-Sham and the issue of Muawiyah. But Muawiyah radiallahu anhu didn't agree with that. He wanted to send someone to speak to Muawiyah. The first person he sends was a Sahabi by the name of Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bujli, saying that the Amsar, the major cities, had pledged to him, and that the only ones left are Amr ibn al-As and his son Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As and Muawiyah. And they all refused to pledge to Ali radiallahu anhu unless he avenges the death of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So he's telling him, if you kill the murderers of Uthman, we will be the fastest to respond to you and will be the most obedient to you. Otherwise, you have nothing with us, nor to any of our companions except the sword. By the one whom there is no other God besides, we will pursue the killers of Uthman in the mountains and in the sand until Allah kills them, or our souls join that of Uthman. Wassalam. So now Ali radiallahu anhu commands people to prepare to attack Sham. And at the beginning of the Hijjah, in the 36th year after the Hijrah, he sent to the people of Yemen and to Al-Basra and Faris and Egypt and Khurasan, and he gathered 120,000 warriors. And the news of the army reaches Muawiyah. So they started to gather out an army, and they gathered an army of 90,000 warriors. So Muawiyah reaches an area called Siffin, and he camps there and he waits for the army of Ali radiallahu anhu. So then Ali reaches Siffin, and he finds that Muawiyah's army took control of all the water. So Ali radiallahu anhu sends to them saying, let's share the water between us. So some of them were of the opinion, let them taste the absence of water as they made Uthman. Scholars amongst the people of Sham who were present, they said it is not permissible to prevent them from water. So they disagreed amongst themselves. So then Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, to agree to like something in the middle, he said, we'll prevent them from water temporarily, just to make them taste the thirst. So then they put a regiment near the water, and when the people came to drink, they prevented them. So now they tasted this thirst. So then Ali commanded to attack so they can get access to the water. So as soon as they attacked, the regiment withdrew. Now the army of Ali radiallahu anhu is in charge of the water. The people of Fitna said, let's prevent them now from drinking water. So then Ali radiallahu anhu tells them, you faulted them for preventing you from the water, and now you want to prevent them from the water? So he ordered to allow whoever wants to drink from the water to be able to drink. And now both armies are camped and both are around the water of Siffin. Then Ali sent messengers to Muawiyah. This is the last effort here. He sent Bashir ibn Amr al-Ansari and Sa'id ibn Qais al-Hamadani and Shabth ibn Rub'i. Bashir ibn Amr began, and he praised Allah and said, O Muawiyah, verily the dunya is going to leave you, and you will return to the akhirah, and Allah is going to judge you on your deeds and reward you based upon it. And I ask you by Allah to not divide the people of this ummah and not cause bloodshed between them. So then Muawiyah tells him, have you given this advice to your friend? So then Bashir ibn Amr says to him, he is not like you. Verily my friend is the most deserving of people of this affair. So then Muawiyah says, what does he say? And Amr says, he commands taqwa, and to respond to the son of your uncle to what he calls you to, of truth. It is better for you in your dunya and safer for you in your final end, in your akhirah. And then Muawiyah radiallahu anhu says, and leave the blood of Ibn Affan. He says, no, by Allah, we will never do that. So then Sa'id ibn Qais wanted to speak, but one of his messengers, the one we said his name is Shabth ibn Rub'i, he interrupts Sa'id so he can speak. So he praises Allah and he said, O Muawiyah, I have understood what you said to Bashir. By Allah, it is not hidden from us what you want. You find nothing with which to delude people and sway their desires with and get their obedience with, except to say, your Imam was killed unjustly and we demand revenge for his blood. So he's saying that you want the Khilafah. So then he continues, we know that you purposely delayed sending assistance to him, meaning Uthman, and wanted him to die. So then he says, and perhaps someone would want something and Allah will come between him and what he wants. And then he continued saying other horrible things to Muawiyah. And now Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is shocked. He's a great Sahabi and he's a great leader. And the Prophet ﷺ used to put him in charge of platoons, and Abu Bakr put him in charge of Sham and Umar and Uthman. And now this man is attacking him like this. So Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is very moved, very hurt by this speech, and he praised Allah, and he said, the first thing that informed me of your safah is one who doesn't know how to behave properly, and your lack of clemency is that you interrupted this noble man, meaning Sa'id. Then you accused me of things that you have no knowledge of, and you have lied in all that you have said. Get out! There is nothing between you and me except the sword. And in the month of Dhul Hijjah, in the 36th year after the Hijrah, the fighting of the Battle of Siffin begins. In the beginning, Ali radiallahu anhu sent a platoon, and Muawiyah also sent a platoon, and both of them fought, but no one won. There wasn't any kind of decisive victory, so they returned. So then they sent two other platoons, and they fought, and there wasn't as distinct or clear victory, so they returned. And they remained upon this for one whole month, for the entire month of the Hijjah. More than 90 battles took place, and there's no decisive victory. And what used to bother the army of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was the presence of Ammar in the army of Ali. And all of them knew the hadith. And Muawiyah gives orders, no one approaches Ammar. And Ammar was the one holding the standard of the army of Ali. And whenever he advances, they would run away from him. And when the Hijjah ends, Ali sends to Muawiyah saying, would you agree, like a cessation of hostilities for a month, because this was the month of Muharram, in which there was no fighting. So they stopped fighting for the entire month of Muharram. And the two armies would meet at night. They were relatives, they were family, they were tribes, they all knew each other, they were Sahaba, companions. Go to the other camp would visit them. So then during this month, Ali sends messengers again, and he sends this time Adi ibn Hatim, one of the Sahaba, and Yazid ibn Qais al-Harbi, and Shibt ibn Rub'i again, the one who spoke rudely to Muawiyah the first time, and he also sent Ziyad ibn Hafs. So they enter upon Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, and Adi spoke, and he praised Allah, and he said, we have come to call you to an affair through which Allah will unite our ummah, and prevent with it bloodshed, and make amends between us. The son of your uncle, meaning Ali, is the best of the ummah and the best in Islam, and the majority of people pledge to him except you and your companions. So beware, O Muawiyah, so that you and your companions may meet a day like the day of Al-Jamal. So then Muawiyah radiallahu anhu tells him, it is as if you came to threaten and not to make peace. By Allah, I am the son of Harb. He's telling him, you can't scare me. And you, wallahi, were of those who incited against Uthman. And I hope that you're amongst those whom Allah kills. So then Shibt ibn Rub'i again spoke. From those who spoke against Uthman as well is Ammar ibn Yasir. So then he tells him, would you be pleased with killing Ammar ibn Yasir? And you know this position of Ammar. Muawiyah tells him, and what will prevent me from that? If I get a hold of the son of Sumayyah, I would kill him for the blood of Uthman's slave. So then Shibt says, Wallahi alladhi la ilaha illa hu. You will not get to him until next fly, and the earth tightens around you. And then Muawiyah tells him, in that case it will be even tighter around you. And then in the first of the month of Safar, the decisive battle of Siffin begins. Ali radiallahu anhu sent someone to say, O people of Ash-Sham, Amir al-Mu'mineen says to you that this is a chance for you to review what is the truth and to come to it, and that this is your final warning, and that Allah does not love those who are treacherous. And then he speaks radiallahu anhu to his own army, and he says, Do not fight them until they attack you, for you are in a justified position. So if you defeat them, then do not kill anyone who is running away, nor finish off a wounded person, and do not uncover a awrah, nor disfigure the dead. And if you reach the homes of the people, do not uncover them, nor take anything of their wealth, nor harm their women, even if they insult your umara. So this is the advice of Ali radiallahu anhu. And then the fighting starts. For the first week, it wasn't fierce fighting. And Ali radiallahu anhu sent to Muawiyah saying, why should we have the people fight? Come out to me, and me to you, and whoever kills the other, the affair is his. Amr ibn al-As was there. He was there with Muawiyah. And he said, it's a good idea. Go to him and fight him. So then Muawiyah says, woe to you. Has there ever been a person who went out to him except that he didn't get killed? Then during the battles, a freed slave of Ali, a Mawla, goes out to fight, and he was met by a Mawla of Muawiyah. So the Mawla of Muawiyah was able to kill that of Ali. So then Ali himself attacked. He struck the sword from the hand of the Mawla of Muawiyah, and then grabbed him from his clothes and raised him in the air with one hand and dropped him crashing down to the ground, breaking his neck and his ribs.
Jeez.
And Muawiyah and Amr were watching this. So Muawiyah turned to Amr and said, and you want me to go out to him? And by the 8th of Safar, Ali made up his mind to bring an end to the situation. One large attack immediately, the next day, to end it. So he gives advice to his soldiers. Look at the advice he gives his soldiers. He tells them, make your night long in qiyam, and do much reading of the Quran, and ask Allah for victory and patience, and fight hard and be truthful. So the next day, Ali radiallahu anhu commands a full attack, all 120,000 of his warriors attacking the army of Muawiyah. And they fought for 3 days non-stop. And Ubaydullah ibn Umar, he's leading the advance guard of the army of Muawiyah. And leading the advance guard of the army of Ali is Hisham ibn Utbah. And this attack, Ubaydullah radiallahu anhu dies, the son of Umar ibn Khattab. He dies in the battle of Siffin. And the fierce fighting continues. And Ali radiallahu anhu at that time, he had 2 guards to guard him and to prevent him from entering the battlefield. So whenever they were not paying attention, he would attack and not return until his sword bends. And he would come back and say, Wallahi, if the sword didn't bend, I would not return. Now Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu is at this point, he's 91 years old. Everywhere he goes, the Sahaba, the companions, are following him, they're behind him. And everyone else is avoiding him. As Ammar was in the battle, a man came to him with a drink of milk. So he laughed. He knew, this is as the Prophet ﷺ told him. And he knew that after drinking this milk, he's going to die. So he laughed, drank it, and said, today I meet the beloved ones, Muhammad and his companions. So then
He knew if he drank the milk he was going to die, but he was told that he would drink the milk. I don't know if I would have drank that milk.
men from the army of Muawiyah, and they didn't care, and they attacked Ammar radiallahu anhu. Abu al-Ghadiyah stabs him, and Ammar radiallahu anhu falls, and then Ibn al-Jawa removes his head. And Ammar radiallahu anhu is killed in this way in the battle of Siffin. The news spreads, and this incident is so great that the fighting stops. And in the army of Sham, it's a calamity. We have killed Ammar. That means we're the transgressing party. The narrator says the people started to go out saying, the ones who killed Ammar are the ones who brought him here. And this starts to spread. They start to say this all over the army of Sham. And then our narrator, Abdurrahman al-Sulmi, says, I don't know which is stranger, Muawiyah in saying something like this, or them in believing him in this. So the army of Muawiyah did not split up and remain together because of what he said. So then Ali radiallahu anhu orders another attack, and this attack also continues for days. At one point during the battle, the left flank of Muawiyah's army attacked the right flank of the army of Ali, and it was a strong and brutal attack. An eyewitness says, I saw 800 men from the army of Ali trying to push back this attack until 600 of them were killed. And they came off their horses and they started to fight on their knees. That's how fierce the fighting was. And then Ali felt that the right flank of his army had been defeated. So he sent Al-Ashtar al-Nukhai at the head of a regiment, and he was able to defend the right flank of the army, and then he took him back to his place. So they fight for 3 nights non-stop. And then Ali attacks the heart of the army of Muawiyah. On this night, people prayed on their horses, and they fought until Fajr. And their swords broke, and their shields broke, and their arrows were finished, and they fought with bare hand and with rocks. One of the Sahaba says, we fought the Romans, and we fought the Persians. By Allah, we have never seen fighting more fierce than the fighting of companions to each other. And between Muawiyah and the army of Ali, there were 5 regiments. And Ali broke the first regiment, and then the second, and then the third, and then he defeated and crushed the 4th. And when Muawiyah radiallahu anhu saw this, he became scared, he became worried. And at this point, 70,000 men had been killed. 45,000 from the army of Muawiyah and 25,000 from the army of Ali. So Amr ibn al-As saw defeat, so he made a suggestion to Muawiyah. The best way to end the battle is to raise the book of Allah and say, let the book of Allah judge between us. They only lifted it when they saw that they're going to be defeated, and this was the opinion of Ali radiallahu anhu. So he said, let's fight and let's end this now. And others were saying, how can we not respond to the book of Allah? So he sends to Muawiyah, and he said, what do you want? And Muawiyah says, between us and you is the book of Allah. So he tells him, why raise the Mus'haf? He says, let us go to what Allah commands in His book. So Ali says, how? Muawiyah says, we send a man from your party, and we'll send someone from ours, and then get them to go by what is in the book of Allah, and then we follow what they agreed to.
Oh,
So
okay.
they go.
So these 2 people are going to go out and kind of talk peace? Because originally I was thinking they were going to go out and do battle. So they're going to go out and talk peace, and they're going to, these 2 people are going to, I would guess once these 2 have agreed to it, then everyone else has to get on board.
Go to Ali with this proposal of Muawiyah, and Ali refused. And the people of Iraq, they accept. And Ali tells them it's a trick. So the people threw their swords down. Even though Ali radiallahu anhu, he was almost victorious and he was going to end the fitna, but it shows you the seriousness of disobeying your Amir. So then Muawiyah's army sent Amr ibn al-As. Every time Ali radiallahu anhu suggested someone, they refused him. And they said, we don't want anyone except Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, because he is a man of good opinion. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu was known for being one of the most intelligent and quick-witted of the Arabs. So they write down the declaration. It says, this is a declaration between Ali ibn Abi Talib and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, declaring that Ali ibn Abi Talib has appointed an arbitrator on behalf of the people of Kufa and all those supporting him. And similarly, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan has appointed an arbitrator on behalf of all those who follow him. And we, holding the book of Allah the Almighty and His order as judge, declare that both of us will follow nothing but the injunctions of Allah and His book. And we abide by the rules of the Quran from Al-Fatiha to its end, and declare to follow what is permitted and hold back what is forbidden. The 2 appointed arbitrators are Abu Musa, Abdullah ibn Qais al-Ash'ari, and Amr ibn al-As. They will give a decision according to the dictates of the Quran, otherwise in accordance with the Sunnah if the Quran is found silent over the issue. This is the agreement that they made.
Okay.
And they stipulated that if those 2 people, radiallahu anhuma, make a decision that people can't refuse their judgment, and that they can't harm them, or they can't harm their family, and that the soldiers from both armies are safe, and that the judgment will be upon all the ummah, and there will be no fighting until they make their decision. So the judgment was not until...
I just have a feeling that they're going to make a decision, and somebody from the Fitna is going to kill one of them, and then the war's back on. Okay, so maybe this is just me, but this is off topic. That's an eye. The other eye's over there, you can't see. This is the nose. This is the mouth. This is the chin with a little bit of a beard on it, and this is the head. I'm looking at Groot's face, aren't I? That's Groot. I know Groot when I see him in a mountain.
Ramadan, and they're in the month of Siffin. So the armies go back. So this marks the end, for now, of the battle of Siffin.
For now, yeah.
So now the army of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is united, and they're satisfied, and they return home. And Ali radiallahu anhu returned in an army, but it's boiling. And when Ali returns to Al-Kufa, 12,000 leave his army. They are known to us today as Al-Khawarij. And amongst their leaders, Shib ibn Rubai, the messenger who was sent twice to Muawiyah, and he caused problems twice, and now this is the third time he's causing problems. So now the two arbitrators met in Dawmat al-Jandal, and it was Abu Musa al-Ash'ari and Amr ibn al-As. And each of them brought 400 men with them. And they brought as many Sahaba as possible, because the one who has a lot of Sahaba, it's a sign that he's with the truth. And they started to speak for a while, and all of the details of the negotiations are preserved in the books of history. They did not come to a solution. So then in the end, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari tells Amr ibn al-As, you know that Iraq will never accept Muawiyah, and the Sham will never accept Ali. So I suggest we remove both of them and bring Abdullah ibn Umar. So then Amr ibn al-As tells him, do you think he would accept? He says, if we insist, he will accept. So then Amr ibn al-As suggests, what if we bring Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas? And Abu Musa says no, he refuses. Then he says, what if we bring Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As? And he's not any lesser than Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab. And Abu Musa says no. And every time Amr ibn al-As suggests someone to be the Khalifa, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari refuses. So both of them decided that they will remove Ali, and that they will remove Muawiyah from his position, and they will have the people choose the next Khalifa. So the news reaches Ali, and he refuses. And he gives a khutbah, and he shows his displeasure with the decision. And then he orders the army to prepare so they can continue fighting Muawiyah.
But didn't he just agree that whatever their decision was, which I understand, you're getting taken out of your lead. Yeah, no one wants to give that up. Did I understand that wrong? I know they want to oust him, so I have a feeling this is not going to end good. Ugh.
So then the Khawarij came again, and they said, now you refuse it?
Yeah.
And he tells them, I was against it. They said, but you accepted it in the end. And he tells them, so did you. And they said, yes, we accepted it in the end, and we erred. We were wrong when we did that, and we became kuffar when we accepted it. Because part of their belief is that when you do a major sin, they believe that that takes you out of the fold of Islam. So we became Muslims again. And now we want you to testify that you made kufr and enter into Islam again, and then we'll pledge to you. So then he says, La wallah, I will not testify against myself with kufr. So they left, and they called him a kafir, and they left with 16,000 men. The people in the Sham said, as long as he was removed by the two arbitrators, then we'll pledge to Muawiyah. And they pledged to Muawiyah as the new Khalifa. So now for the first time, there are two khulafa for the Muslim Ummah. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on, Egypt starts going out of control. And when Muawiyah radiallahu anhu hears,
I completely forgot that there's other stuff going on outside of just these guys. There's all this fighting. Just completely forgot. Like, no, everything is taking place here.
When Muawiyah radiallahu anhu hears of the news of the people of Egypt, he sends them an army of 6,000 under the leadership of Amr ibn al-As. And then all of Egypt agrees to join them, and now they have a large army. So now Egypt is under Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. While all this was going on in Egypt, things were happening in Basra. The people in Basra were still upset about the Battle of Al-Jamal, and they still want to revenge the murder of Uthman. So they start to communicate with Muawiyah, and he sends them Muawiyah ibn al-Hadrami, and he enters Basra secretly, and the people gather to him. And Ali was afraid that he will lose Basra now, so he sent Jariyah ibn Qudama, and they fought Ibn al-Hadrami and defeated him, and they killed him. So Basra still under Ali radiallahu anhu, but it's still boiling. So now the Hajj season comes, and there are two khulafa, and you know that the Khalifa is the one who goes out and leads the Hajj, or he appoints someone. So Ali radiallahu anhu put Qithm ibn al-Abbas as the Amir of Hajj, and Muawiyah sends Yazid ibn Shajjara as the Amir of Hajj. So the companions in Mecca, they met under Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, and they agreed to not obey any of the Umara. And at the end of Hajj, Ali radiallahu anhu started to gather the people again to fight Yazid ibn Shajjara, who was sent by Muawiyah as the Amir of Hajj. He takes over Mecca. Ali radiallahu anhu starts to gather people to go fight him. So he starts to gather the people of Iraq, and they refuse to go out with him. He tries and they refuse adamantly. So Yazid ibn Shajjara now takes over Mecca. And now Muawiyah sees that Ali has no power, so he sent Busr ibn Arta'a to Hijaz, to Medina and those areas, and then to Yemen, and he takes them for Muawiyah. So now Yemen and Egypt and Hijaz, Medina and Mecca left the control of Ali. He only has Iraq under him, and it's boiling. Even they are not content. The territory under Ali right now is decreasing, and Muawiyah is increasing. So Ali sent an army to send Busr ibn Arta'a out of Hijaz and Yemen, and they took him out of Yemen, and now they head towards Hijaz. So now Ali wins Yemen over again, and now they start to head towards the area of Medina and Mecca. The area of Persia also starts to leave Ali. All these problems that are happening are within 4 years. And the Fitn start in Kufa, and the Khawarij start to show up in Kufa, the city of Ali radiallahu anhu. And they would oppose him, even in the masjid. He's giving a khutbah, they interrupt him, causing problems. While all this internal fighting is going on, Heraclius sent an army to take over the lands of the Muslims. He sees them busy, fighting with each other. So he says, I'll send an army to conquer their lands. And when the army reaches the edges of Sham, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu sent him a letter saying, Wallahi, if you don't return, I will pledge to the son of my uncle and will come to you. And we fight each other, but you don't come and take over our land. So the Romans felt he was serious, and they withdrew. So every time Ali radiallahu anhu calmed down a place, another place goes boiling. And in Kufa they're not respecting him, and if he gives an order they don't obey him. Most of his time just solving fitan and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would pray the whole night, and they described that he would cry deeply, and the rest of the time he's trying to help the people and to give to the poor. He did all that he could radiallahu anhu. And he gave a khutbah showing his displeasure with the situation, and saying how people were not loyal to him, and they did not obey his commands, and how they were treacherous. And he tells them in the khutbah that how Muawiyah's group obeys him, and he says, Oh Allah, that I have grown tired of them, and they have grown tired of me, and that I have hated them, and they have hated me, and to replace me with better. On one of the days, here the Khawarij sat down to discuss the affairs of the Muslims and what's going on in the Ummah. So one of them said, the problems are all because of Muawiyah. And another said, rather it's all because of Ali. And the third one said, and Amr ibn al-As is not far from this. So between the three of them, they said, let's rid the people of these two. And they agreed to murder all of them on the same time, after Fajr prayer, in the 17th of Ramadan, in the 40th year after the Hijrah. So Al-Burq ibn Abdullah al-Tamimi goes to Sham, to kill Muawiyah, to assassinate Muawiyah. And he prayed Fajr with the people behind Muawiyah. When Muawiyah is leaving the masjid, Al-Burq lifted his sword, but Muawiyah saw him lift the sword, so he jumped out of his way. So Al-Burq struck Muawiyah's posterior and he cut it off. And the sword that he used had poison in it, and he had his would-be assassin killed. The doctor who came to him and told him, I have two cures. One is cauterization with fire, and the other is a medicine that I will give you to drink, but if you drink it, you will become sterile. You will not have any more children after that. So Muawiyah radiallahu anhu said, I have no patience with fire, so he drank the medicine, and subhanAllah, after that he never had any more children. So we move now to the person who was assigned to assassinate Amr ibn al-As. So the man who was sent goes, and he also prays Fajr behind Amr ibn al-As, and after the Salah, he jumped to kill Amr, and he stabbed him, and he killed him. And he was surprised to find that Amr on that day was sick. So Amr radiallahu anhu was saved. So now we move to Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim, who came to Al-Kufa. When Ali radiallahu anhu entered the masjid, he started to call people, Ayyuhan nas, as-salah, as-salah. He's calling people to salah. And then Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim attacks him. He struck him saying, the judgment is to Allah, not to you, O Ali, and not to your companions. And he struck him. He struck him in his head, and he hit him very hard, and it was a huge wound. But Ali radiallahu anhu did not die immediately, and the sword was poisoned as well. So when he was struck, he said, do not let the man escape. So they caught the man, and Ali says, a soul for a soul. If I die, kill him as he killed me. If I don't die and I make it through this, await my decision. And he gives advice to his sons and to his friends, and he says, O sons of Abdul Muttalib, do not shed blood saying Amir al-Mu'mineen has been killed. Nah, don't start avenging my blood. He learned the lesson from what happened to Uthman radiallahu anhu. Verily none should be killed except my killer. And then he says to Al-Hasan, he says, look, if I die, whoever struck me this blow, then it's a blow for a blow. Do not disfigure him after he's dead. And then Jundub ibn Abdullah enters, and he says, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, if we lose you, and I hope we don't, should we pledge to Al-Hasan? Ali radiallahu anhu tells him, I don't order you, nor do I prevent you. You have better judgment in this issue.
Pick your own future leader kind of thing. It's fair.
Then he calls Al-Hasan and Hussein, calls them near. He says to them, I advise you with the taqwa of Allah, and do not desire the dunya, even if it calls you to it. And do not cry over something that gets away from you, and speak the truth, and have mercy on the orphan, and assist the lost, and work for the next life, and be the opponent of the oppressor, and the supporter of the oppressed. Giving them beautiful, beautiful advice, and act on what is in the book of Allah, and do not fear those who will blame you for doing what is right. And then he turned to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah is the other son of Ali radiallahu anhu. He turns to him and he says, have you learned what I advised your brothers with? And he says, yes. He says, I advise you with the same, and I advise you to have the respect of your brothers, and don't undertake any affair without them. And then he says to Hassan and Hussein, I advise you to take care of him, for he is your brother and the son of your father, and you know that your father used to love him. And then he tells Al-Hasan, O son, I advise you with the taqwa of Allah and establishing the salah in its time. And he kept on reminding him and advising him until he passed away. And then he was washed by Al-Hasan and Hussein and Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar, and Al-Hasan led the funeral prayers, and he made 7 takbir. He had remained alive Friday and Saturday, and then died on Sunday night, and he was buried in Al-Kufa. So Ali radiallahu anhu dies at the age of 63 years old, and his reign was for a period of 4 years and 9 months, and this marks the passing away of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, second man to become a Muslim and the son-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
I knew that Ali was killed. I just didn't realize how. And I had heard the story of him telling his sons. Like that sounded familiar. Which I think I just did the Ali. Well, I did it a couple weeks ago. Because the Uthman part got me. I hope they... Did they ever find out... Were they ever able to ferret out the people who killed Uthman? Alright. Well, I'm going to end this here. Sad video. But like and subscribe. And until next time, this fly's really bothering me. Have a good day, have a good night. What if the fly bites me and I get fly powers? I'll be a Marvel character. Oh no. I was just thinking the movie The Fly. My fly powers would be I'd fly around and then I'd vomit on food. That's uncomfortable. Let's just end it here.